Hello, welcome back to Teams Culture and You. Today, I'm excited to have Dawn Mahan back on the show. We spoke earlier this year about all things project management and her first amazing book, which was an Amazon bestseller, Meet the Players in Project Land. Dawn is the founder of PMO Training, and she is a global project management rock star and creator of the Project Flow process learning system, which makes all that complex project stuff just click. And in service of that, she recently released a new book with co-author Jerry Manis called Project Land Goes to the Movies, 22 Blockbuster Strategies for Project Success. I've always had a great time talking with Dawn, and I am so excited to dig deep into this new book with her. Welcome, Dawn. It's lovely to see you again. I know we spoke earlier this year, actually. We spoke about your first book, Meet the Players in Project Land. And it's so lovely to have you on the podcast again. I always enjoy speaking with you. And today we're going to speak about this new book, which is Project Land Goes to the Movies. So congratulations, Dawn.
Thank you. And thank you for having me back. I love speaking with you and I love your show. So I really appreciate you having me back.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for the copy of the book. I really enjoyed reading it. It's a really easy read, actually, and particularly because it goes through movies of my life. So a lot of the movies that are highlighted here are movies that I've watched and I've grown up with. But how did the concept of the book come about for you in terms of thinking about movies and how it relates to project management?
We get that question a lot because there are a lot of people that are like, how did you come up with this time? Last time was animals. This time it's movies. What's going on? And so what happened is Jerry Manis and I, and you can see on the cover of the book, his name is right with mine. We were co-editors there. Yeah. And so he's my partner in crime, as it were, in books, in the whole book realm. Without him, I couldn't have put out the first book. And so I was speaking with him, and we created a list of, not kidding, 50 books minimum that between the two of us we could write, between what we already have content-wise, what we're passionate about, what we've always wanted to write, etc. And we were looking at this list going, well, how do we choose which one to work on? And we'd love to work on one together. And so what we did was we looked through it and we said, well, which one would be the most fun? And this is the one we both said at the same time. And then I was speaking with a gentleman I met in what I like to call speaker school. So as a speaker, you're just working on the craft. And he is the head of Book Thinkers. And his name is Nick, and he put out a book that I really enjoyed as well. And he talked about the multi-author concept. And so that was right around the same time. I love how the universe brings the right people and ideas together at the right time. And that was right around the same time Jerry and I were thinking about Project Land Goes to the Movies. So I was so excited. I had a meeting with Jerry right after speaking with Nick, and I said, what if we invited more voices to this? More movies, more voices, more lessons from the trenches. And he was like, I love it. And that's how the idea was born.
Yeah, because it's actually an anthology in a way of different authors and their take on project management, what it means to really deliver successful projects and what are the lessons they've learned, and using movies as a metaphor, which is wonderful. And so when you went out to authors, how did that happen? How did you choose the variety of authors you have here? Because what I noticed too is that you've got some international authors as well. So it's not just an American perspective, which I really appreciated.
Yeah.
There were some movies in there that come from other countries, which was wonderful. So how did that come about, Dawn?
Well, two different ways. One was Jerry and I brainstormed about people who we thought might be interested in joining us on this journey because putting a book out is a project in itself. And so we reached out to certain people that we felt were powerful in their lessons and the way that they speak about things, and perhaps were authors before, and that just people we adore. And so we did some reach outs. And then we also said, but we want new voices that we don't even know yet. And that's when we put out what we called the author casting call. So we started to use all these movie terms every chance we could get to really get the vibe of the movies going. And so we called it the author casting call. I put it out on LinkedIn. And there were a number of people I didn't really know that were maybe following me and said, I would love to do this. And so what we were thinking about was, and what we were trying to attract were the right authors that, just like you said, would be a diverse set of voices. They would bring a diverse set of movies. They would bring their own very own lessons from the trenches, because that's really the best way to share project success lessons. Because even at the Project Management Institute, they have their manual, if you will, is called the PMBOK Guide, which is the Project Management Body of Knowledge. But when I first started studying it over 20 years ago, my instructor said the body of knowledge, it's called that because the body of knowledge is everywhere in people's experiences, because every project is unique. And so I just love the group of people that ended up coming together for this. It really was such a great group of people.
Yeah, it really is. It's wonderful, Dawn. And you know, I really appreciate that too. And I guess the other thing I appreciate it as well is that the chapters, you use a lot of screen terms in the way the chapters are sorted out too. So you've got, you know, setting the scene, and then you've got the movie moment. And action, you know, project land, success tips, etc. So you really take that theme throughout, and
we did.
And did the authors embrace that? Did they really love that too?
Yeah, they did. They were absolutely wonderful, and they understood too that when you put a book together, even if they were new authors, that this book is in service of the reader. And so we want to make sure that the reading experience is just what you said. It's fun. It's predictable also. So the way that we templated the chapters for everyone is, yeah, you have to set the scene. You have to explain the movie, because some people may never have seen this movie. We can't expect a reader to have seen all 22 movies in the book. And even if they've seen it before and they're an expert in the movie, then they want to know, well, which part of it did you pull out to talk about? Because some of these movies have tons and tons of lessons inside them.
They really do. They really do. And also I noted that some of the authors pulled out even, you know, a script notes. So they've got the actual script. So it's very specific. It's this part of the movie that has that lesson that I'm going to talk about, or that, you know, it has the analogy that I need to sort of flesh out. So,
absolutely.
So I thought that was really interesting. Yeah. I you know, in terms of lessons learned too, as I was reading the book, one of the ways I thought that immediately I started to think about how I could apply this is actually when I'm working with teams, I have a toolkit now where I can maybe bring in a metaphor like a movie, and I can say, you know what? Hey people, you know, it sounds like we're in a bit of a predicament like the Apollo 13 movie. Let's work the problem. What can we do? And I thought that's a fantastic, as I was reading that, I thought that's exactly how I'm going to use this book. But
Perfect.
What are some of the ways you would like readers to really apply some of the ways in which they apply the knowledge in this book, or apply the lessons learned in this book?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're hoping for. And now we've got 22 clips that can be used for either before the situation happens. Like, for example, we're going into the next phase. It's going to be pretty intense. This is the way we should make sure that we're communicating. Let's show the movie clip from Top Gun. Let's talk about the lessons in the chapter and get people ready. And talk about it inside the organization, what might prevent us from being the best communicators we can be in this intense situation we're entering, and get the ideas out there in a way that may be different and much more comfortable, because you're seeing this other intense situation on the screen. So that's one way, is the way that you mentioned, certainly in the moment. And then the other way is the prevention mechanism, which I feel project managers should be pain prevention planners. And also, the other thing that's happening, which I think is really what Jerry and I also were just hoping for, is organizations that have to engage people who are basically new to project land. They have their day job, they're nurses, they're doctors, they're experts at something else, but they have to engage on projects. How can you explain some of these complex concepts in a way that they're going to immediately understand? Well, one way is one of our authors did his chapter on The Martian, and he said he actually used it at work to explain Agile. Because the movie, he has to iterate his way home. He has to figure out a way and, science the blank out of it. Right? Like, and it's a thing, and it's a saying in the movie. And it's Matt Damon, right? So
yes.
it makes it fun and easier for people who they don't want to become expert project managers. They don't, they're on the team, but they would like to understand, and they should have the opportunity to understand the concept in an easier, much more accessible way.
Actually, that's a good point. And I think you sort of mentioned that in the forward in the book. There is an application of project management that we all professional service roles perhaps, touch on. It's not just the project manager or the leader
Right.
or the product owner, sponsor, etc. It will be, perhaps all sorts of people who are needing to organize, plan to an outcome with others. Often it's with others, and people, are often the important part of that. So you're right. That's something that I think I'm taking away as well. It's not just for that project manager. It's actually
Absolutely.
for all of us, and particularly those of us that really work in complex environments. Sometimes it's and all the way from small business to large corporates. They can be complex environments, lots of factors, but the thing we have in common is that often we're trying to achieve an outcome together.
Absolutely. I love how you said that. Absolutely. Yeah, and there are so many movies where that happens. And so you can choose the one that feels like the best lesson for your team and the one that might resonate the most in that moment. And you can also lighten it up, because Project Land is so stressful. It's a pressure cooker. You're inside a pressure cooker and under a microscope all at the same time many times on projects. And so being able to bring in a small clip from a movie and talk about it and say, how are you guys feeling in this moment? This is what I was thinking about. We're just like Matt Damon right now. Okay, that isn't that fun? Isn't that a better way to do it than, a 45 slide PowerPoint?
Yes.
Why not?
Much more fun. Much more fun. And, and I think that's why metaphor works so well, because it's a shortcut for us. There is a lot of meaning that is transferred, that is shared when we just talk about, an image or a movie and often I think directors understand this, that in movies, often the most iconic moments in movies they don't really have a lot of dialogue. It's an image that's created in the viewer's mind. And because it does relay so much information, like you were talking about The Martian, and I think of Matt Damon alone in his little space hub and, trying to work out how to grow potatoes. And that image is, I can't remember what the character says, but I remember that image and the arc of the hero in that, and so absolutely, metaphor is really important. And Dawn, it is obviously important to you. Your first book was on the animals in the zoo of Project Land. This book is about the movies and lessons we learn and how we apply that to Project Land. What is it about metaphor for you? Is it something that you've always been curious about, understood? Because obviously that's your unique You bring that.
Thanks. It's so interesting. You always ask the best questions that make me think way, way back. So I actually won in high school, believe it or not, the English award for our high school senior class at graduation. And I did love metaphor even way back then. And then I found myself when I was running a PMO in the Fortune 500, and everybody around us was new to projects and the proper way to do projects. And it was so intense. The environment was very difficult. And I found ways to explain things that were simple on the fly. I don't, just through the intensity of having to, I think. but the simpler you can make things that are complex for people that are new to it, the better. And so how do you do that? You say, well, it's just like this thing that you know, the thing we're trying to do over here, it's just like this thing you know, only it's this thing over here. And so then they go, oh, it's just that? Yeah, okay. Well, why didn't you say so? Okay, great. Well, now we're on the same page. Boom. And that really started to help me hone some of these messages that you're seeing now. Like even just the word project land. That was created by blurting it out in front of a group of people who were all wide-eyed and very experienced, but were very new to the world of projects, where I just blurted out, like, maybe we should just call it something different. It's like a different world with different roles and rules. Let's call it, I don't know, Project Land. And then it's stuck. It's just in an attempt to help people get it in a way that's not so painful or boring.
Yeah, I love that. I work with a lot of leaders on this in terms of communication too. When you can really take something complex but bring it down to something that people understand, and not to dilute it so that you take out the complexity, but it's really just so that people can put their arms around it and then start to then be curious about certain things, because otherwise the opposite to that is people get overwhelmed or they ignore you because they don't see it as relevant, right? So
absolutely.
That's part of the problem. So I love that you won that competition.
I didn't know it. There was no competition. There was nothing to. It just
won. There was
it just appeared like at graduation. They called me up, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I got a math degree, obviously.
Yes.
Obviously, you'll get a math degree after that. I don't know.
That's not. Yeah, often those two skills are not usually complementary. But when you think about it, though, maths again is our pursuit of simplifying complexity or codifying complexity. When you think of the way maths explains the universe in a way, it's vast, and yet we can derive an equation that helps us understand these huge forces in the universe. So, maybe in some ways that's what you're doing, Dawn. You're actually deriving a way of codifying this complex land of projects and project management and project delivery in a way that helps people understand that, and they can derive certain rules or algorithms that help them navigate that. So
yes.
That's wonderful. Well done.
Thank you. Well, I feel the maths and the sciences, we're problem solvers.
Yeah.
And there's always a problem to be solved in Project Land. Every single day, thousands of problems a day, it feels like. And on the bigger the project, the more people on the project, the more problems there are to solve. So I do love solving problems. And one of the problems, and you alluded to it earlier, is the people side, because people will make or break your project. They absolutely will. And you see that in the movies.
Exactly. And I think it's what fascinates everyone too, in a way. So when you think about it, the problems people talk about in an organization, it's often about the people. So they're concerned about the outcome or not achieving the outcome, but they'll often, it's when you think about the gossip and what is that people are talking about, obviously they're talking about the people. He did this and she did that and he didn't do this and
why is he doing that and why are they doing and why did they make the decision and they didn't ask me.
Exactly.
I'd have made a different decision.
That's right. Exactly.
It is the tough part. Yeah.
Yeah. And Dawn, so this was a busy professional. You're working with clients, but then you're also writing this book. How do you balance everything? How did you balance while you in the making of this?
I did a terrible job balancing this. So what was fortunate was we had a plan, and that really helped. And all of the people who are authors understood what a plan is, obviously, because they're all project management experts. So we were fortunate in that these were really our people that got it. So what ended up happening is when you have a passion, and you and I have talked about some of our passions outside of work as well, when you have a passion, it doesn't feel like work. And so when Jerry and I were like, oh darn, we have to watch another movie to be able to edit this chapter, like it was great. So so for me, I was working really hard during the week, and then on the weekends, I'd watch the movie, edit the chapter, talk to the authors, talk to Jerry. It was every weekend for a year. It was a lot of work to make sure that this book was the level of quality that we felt would represent all of the authors in a way that would make them proud to be part of it. And I think we achieved that. So it was worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What happens though when you get a bunch of project managers together? And so you're saying, there's an advantage. Everyone understands a plan. Is there anything that maybe there's a disadvantage around that group of people? Do they bring a bias where you had to circumvent or prevent or mitigate a behavior? I don't want you to tell secrets, but just overall.
Well, it's a great question. It's when you have a group of experts, everybody's got an opinion, certainly. The good news with this was everybody respected the idea and signed up to write one chapter. So they knew that we were the editors. It was our brainchild. They were being brought in to write a chapter. The chapter was going to be theirs. We were going to help them bring their stories to life, make sure that they were being shown in the best light. So I feel like when you set the stage in the beginning and you have the roles clearly set out, then things go much more smoothly, which is what my first book was all about. And so, of course, people had some great suggestions. So we had a few Zoom author calls, which of course, with a global team, it's impossible to get everybody on at the same time. And, so we did our best, obviously. And there were some great suggestions. Like the reason you got your book so fast was from one of those suggestions, because we were able to send books to Australia straight from the house, and as well to the UK and to Europe. And so the last time I sent a book to overseas, from America, it was a ridiculous price and it took forever. And so when you and I talked about getting together again, I wanted to send you the book, and I was excited to do it because I knew you wouldn't have to wait a month to get it either. And that was because one of our authors knew the trick.
Right. Nice. I love that. That's fantastic, Dawn. And is there a group or a network of people that you're all part of? And I'm asking also from the perspective of if someone wants to learn more about project management as a career, what's the best way for them to start networking with people who are doing this work and who might be able to sort of guide them?
Well, one place that I always send people to that want to network is their local PMI chapter. So the Project Management Institute is global. There are over, I don't know, last time I checked, there are, 200 chapters or something. So there are a lot of local chapters, and my local chapter is 5 hours away because I live in a ridiculous place. But I even really felt once where I need to go see my people. So I drove 3 hours which was the closest one, to go to a happy hour to meet my people and then come back in the same night, because you have to do that sometimes, right? When you feel compelled. And I met wonderful people who are just in the same mindset as I am. And so if somebody's new to project management or they moved, I just spoke recently with a woman who is a senior project manager. She was on the east coast of the U.S. She moved to the west coast of the U.S. She doesn't know anybody, and I reminded her, hey, there's got to be a local PMI chapter where you can network with people, and you never know, you might find a job there, a new friend, learn from them. So even for people who are senior people who want to get to know other people in the profession, it's a great place to go.
That's wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. And definitely, I know that there are PMI chapters in Australia too. So I'll add
Absolutely.
those notes too. But also, I will definitely add some links to where people can find your book, on Amazon, and your website as well. And Dawn, what's next? Is there another book?
There is another book. This one's going to be Jerry's. Yeah, wait till you hear about this one. So it's, for some reason, it's going to be another very different one. So I can't wait to talk to you about it further with him, but I'll give you a little preview. We're considering calling it The Lion and the Hummingbird, a leadership fable. And I think you're going to love it because it is not only a fable like the Who Moved My Cheese type of idea, like a short, very short,
Yes.
but also it is being illustrated by Guy Dorian by hand. So forget this AI illustration business. This gentleman has done Marvel comics, like DC.
Wow.
I mean, he's the man. So we're so excited about it. The images are coming together, and so stay tuned for more on that. But I think this one is going to be really fascinating. And it's not just for Project Land. This one also is about succession planning and, some other things, but looking for that emerging leader. There are a lot of wonderful lessons in it. So I'm excited.
Wonderful, Dawn. I love that. Please let me know when that's ready to be promoted, and we can definitely have another conversation about that. I think that
wonderful.
The cheese book, I'm just wondering, I think that was published more than 20 years ago.
It was.
20?
Yeah.
A long time. So it's time for something new, right?
I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a great idea. I love it.
And we talked about metaphors. I mean, this type of idea, the fable, is a similar concept, isn't it?
Yes. That's right. And fables are sort of special because they always have the lesson is there, well, many lessons in fables, and they often include archetypes as well. So it usually crosses culture and other types of boundaries. So it's interesting. And of course, if you use animals, that's a really good way of doing that because people don't overlay, well, they can overlay their own lens on that, but it's a relatable fable then because the roles of those animals are known in any society. So interesting.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
I love that, Dawn.
Thank you. I can't wait to share it with you.
Success with that.
Thanks.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for the sneak peek. I love that.
Yeah.
And so, Dawn, before we go, is there anything else that's coming up for you right now? Anything you wanted to share? Anything I haven't asked you?
Well, one of the things that I'm wondering about is, so that's Jerry's next book, which obviously I'm on the inside of and helping him with. But my next book and what we're going to do there is probably going to be for the executives. So in the first book, Meet the Players, we had one chapter for the sponsor who's represented by the lion. And I have a whole sponsor school that's affectionately called Sponsor School, right? But it's project management for the executive leaders. And those folks who the project manager reports to. So they're not full-time on these things. They're leading from that leadership lens. And I don't know that there are any good books or helpful books on that. And in fact, I've been brought in many times to teach sponsors how to be great sponsors because great projects deserve great sponsors. And so that's the next one I'm thinking about. I needed a break from Project Land Goes to the Movies a little bit. But of course, you get no breaks because you're passionate about these things. And so what we also did, and what we did today, is we submitted the audiobook for global distribution. So it just got, yes, it is. This audiobook is incredible because we got a professional narrator whose name is Eric Priestman, and he is brilliant. he did the voices. So when you said, "Hey, there was some dialogue from the movies in the book
Yeah.
that you saw," he did the voices. It was
Amazing.
it's like listening to the cinematic trailer in
Love
these
it.
chapters where he did an amazing job. And so again,
Fantastic.
in service to the reader, instead of having 22 different voices with all different levels of and speeds of reading, etc., we decided we were going to invest in Eric's talent, and I am so glad we did. He did an amazing job. So please look out for the audiobook to be
We
hitting
will. We will,
the world
definitely.
next. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. And because I'm in this world where I love to read physical books, and then I have a whole load of audiobooks as well. So definitely like that there's both of those. And when I share books, it's often the audiobook, because I think many people
Really?
are digesting information that way right now. So they often ask for the audiobook. So it's interesting.
Really? Good to know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
this one is going to be, I think, my prediction, if I could make a bold prediction, is I think the audiobook will outpace the rest of the formats because Eric's delivery is incredible and it's a very fun book to listen to. And so, like you said, it was an easy read, but having him read it to you and having him do the voices and everything, I think is just next level. So we'll see what happens.
I love that talent. I'm so bad at voices. I don't even try, but I love that talent. It's
Same.
such a
Yes,
skill.
same.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. I'm working with clients who are trying to really work through issues around AI and what it means
Mm,
for the future of their workflows and their workforce, and just organizational models, all the way from commercial models all the way down to, the way in which project delivery is done. Are you
hmm
concerned about AI? Do you have a view of how AI is affecting particularly the project management space, and particularly from a perspective, is there still a career for project managers, or is that just something that will be commoditized to the point where you don't need the human anymore?
Well, I'm glad you asked that because I am getting asked that a lot now. And my feeling is we project managers, let me just speak for as a project manager. I had so much trouble getting the humans to do what I needed them to do when I needed them to do it. I don't see in this lifetime AI taking over the level of nudging and cajoling and whatever you have to do to get the people to do what they need to do when they need to do it, that the human can do. So I don't see project managers being eliminated by AI because the humans need to be herded. That's why there's a whole section called herding cats in the Project Line Goes to the Movies book. There are so many tips for how do you get the humans to do what you need them to do when you need them to do it on a project, because there is a schedule and they are busy and they have other things to do and they might not get the reasons why behind the what they need to do and why it's important, etc. And only a human can really make that happen. Now, can a project manager use AI and need to know how to run AI projects or projects components with AI in a responsible way? Absolutely. So there's a book I just read, since we're talking about books, called AI Curious. I just finished it. I absolutely loved it. It was wonderfully written, which I was scared about, but it was wonderfully written. And it's all about how you can get your AI. So let's say you use ChatGPT or some other, AI like that, to become a strategic thinker with you, to challenge your thinking. So there,
Uh-huh.
it's a
Yes.
wonderful
Yeah.
it's a wonderful book, and to help AI make you a better thinker as opposed to atrophy your thinking skills, which is what I've been
Right.
concerned about for some people.
Love that. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think
I love that.
leaders that you're working with, project
Yeah.
managers I'm working with, leaders I'm working with, could all benefit from some of the concepts in this book called AI
Mm.
Curious.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you for that, Dawn. I agree with you. I think that the human side of what we do is so complicated, and there are so many micro forces. Imagine you get two people together. There's so many things going on there, and then you double that, and you quadruple that, and then you have 20 people, and then you have 30 people. I mean, there is network constellations of those relationships, and yes, we can map them now with the computer power we have, but there are nuances there that are very human. You need a human to understand, and I don't think we have maybe we will in the future, but right now I don't think we have the capability, the technical capability to even address some of those things. And nor would we want to, because there's a level of empathy and understanding, and also the balancing of certain polarities as well that I think people do as humans. So, for example, when we're talking about AI, people will balance integrity and ethics versus innovation and, go and spearheading new terrain. I think when we can ask for assistance in making our decisions about that, but in the end, it's really the accountability rests with peoples and leaders. So I think that you're right. I think that there's a human element, but yes, we all need to understand how we can make our lives more efficient. But also, I love your point of how we can make our learning, how we can optimize our learnings, how we can actually use AI to get better at what we do. In terms of our strategic thinking. That's a really good point.
Yeah, it's already
love
helping
that.
me. And that's saying, I think, a lot, because I was very skeptical at first. And I was very skeptical. And he goes into that in the book as well, and some of the early interactions I had with it. And I even had several years ago, I don't know, 4 years ago now, maybe, I had on my LinkedIn Live an expert that has been working with AI since he was in college in MIT in the late 70s. Like, AI is not new, people.
Yes.
Which is what he was there to say. It's just finally gotten to the level of sort of everyday conversation. And so how can everyday people use it? Well, one of the things that's fun about Project Land is that every project is unique. So what that means is the AI has not experienced this before. No one has, not in this time, in this place. So it's going to be able to help you with certain things that it can find out there, the research, etc. But you're absolutely right. And I love that you pointed it out, that the humans need to make sure that they're taking the accountability, because the decisions that get made every single day on a project will lead you off track, or you'll win, projects already fail more often than they succeed. The statistics are ridiculous around this. And I have that in my first chapter of my first book. And we can put in the show notes too samples that people can get of those books if they'd like to get some samples for free. Try before they buy,
we will do that.
You will, and check it out. But the statistics are daunting, and part of the reason is because of the humans, not being set up for success. So I don't see AI taking a lot of that away. I see AI helping us if we know how to use it correctly. I see it hurting us if we don't use it responsibly.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dawn. It was lovely to chat with you, as always.
Fast. Thank you so much.
I know it goes really fast. And I will, as I said, I'll put all of those links in the show notes. Really looking forward to the next book. And you're becoming very prolific, Dawn. I love that. I wish you all the best with the audiobook too. I'll look out for the audiobook. That might be my next thing to share wildly with my friends and colleagues. So
wonderful.
Thank you so much, Dawn. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me once again. Always a pleasure. And if there's anything I can do for you or your crew, please let me know.
I will, definitely.